Hey there, it's Koko Ricky playing Doom 2, and I'm using the worst earbuds I've ever owned. Someday that will not be the case. So we're at Suburbs now, somewhere around the halfway point of the game, and Suburbs is one of the better kind of city-themed levels, and I think it's a very memorable one that has some really great little sections, such as this kind of weird red bricked kind of building that has the the kind of see-through or not see-through, but you can go through that wall, and it just gives it a weird kind of evilness to it, I guess, because you're at the point in the game now where Hell's influence is very evident. And okay, well, that fucking Koko demon was in the way there, so really wanted to take advantage of the invulnerability sphere there, and that didn't really work out. So what I'm probably going to have to do is just go into there having already kind of having the okay, so that's going poorly. If you want to bum rush in a level like this, it can actually be... Can we get an actually meter so we can count how many times I use that phrase, or word? I'm so tired of saying that. This is one of those levels that where the enemy numbers, god damn, and if you're trying to do what I'm doing and kind of just play as quickly as possible, I don't necessarily have the skills to speed run this map in 15 seconds like some of those guys can, but I can make a dent in things. And yeah, I just barely avoided that arch file there, so that went a little better. I probably took the long way to get to this, though. I recognize that now. And yeah, there's a lot of pushback from the rocket launcher. It can be kind of crazy to use at times. It might bounce you around like you're in a pinball game or something. So you see this that incredibly crazy number of enemies there. Doom is sometimes remembered as being mostly like this, where there's just hordes everywhere, but this is actually... I said it! This is one of the few moments in the game where there are like huge numbers of enemies at once, and that's only if you're kind of playing in a slightly more passive style like I was, where you're avoiding most of the enemies, and you're really just trying to get through as quickly as you can, finding the quickest routes. And of course, I'm no speedrunner, but I can do it quick enough that there might necessarily be a parade of enemies after me by the end. And that can be a really exciting thing. And as I mentioned in a previous... Oh, dear Lord. As I mentioned in a previous playthrough, that's something that can be a very exciting kind of element to old school Doom, and it's something that you're not really going to find in Doom 2016 due to the hardware limitations kind of making it impossible to have that many enemies on screen at once unless you want to sacrifice polygon counts, which... it just depends on what your aesthetic goal is, and that can actually... that can tie into how the game operates, because obviously in the case of Doom 2016, you're going to have fewer on-screen enemies at a time if you have a very high polygon count. So it's... There's still sacrifices that have to be made, and I think what's going to happen is I love that little bit there. It's a very clever thing. There's a switch there in the bottom, and you can access it from up here because the fact that a trigger can be accessed at any height. And what it does is, yeah, you can actually, yep, you can see the texture there, and it opens that door up, which is a very nice little trick there. I like this area a lot because it feels a bit like a puzzle room, and slowly figuring everything out is, you know, a bit of a task, and you realize that, okay, I really have to kind of explore all the little parts here to kind of get kind of properly, you know, get that bridge to the lower, so I could get that key from where the Revenant was. And it's one of several areas in this level that are nicely designed, but have other parts that are very necessary to explore that just don't really feel super great. So yeah, I love having to kind of get out of there. It's a really frantic, kind of crazy sort of thing, and I enjoy that good enough. And I enjoy this part too. But this whole area that connects everything here at the beginning, I'm not a fan of, and you have to go back to it, you know, several times. I'm also kind of whatever about this part, and it's kind of funny because, you know, there are little bits about it that I do like, that bring a smile, such as that secret there, that kind of feeling of there being weird little nooks and crannies. Because, you know, I don't know, Doom is always good about making you feel satisfied about the secrets. It really made the exploration, it gave you a lot of motivation to explore, but I don't really overall like it. But then this whole area is really neat. So it's kind of like there'll be tiny little bits and pieces of an area that work, especially here. I just really, really like the way all this plays and all this looks. It's a great combination of good design and good aesthetic choice. You know, and the way you can kind of explore and see that, okay, that's how I get to that, and then you've got this whole section here, and the way that leads back to the beginning, near the beginning of the level where I got the first key, the red key. I really like all that, and I don't know, I feel almost nitpicky saying, well, then there's just this other part that I don't like very much. But that is how I feel. This doesn't do a whole lot for me. And again, it's kind of like a weird thing where I don't know what makes me feel about the architecture that it doesn't work, and then something else seems to work perfectly fine. I don't really know what it is, but... And now I'm almost wanting to say that maybe I do like this level because I find this part to be really memorable and great. And it's a really hectic kind of area that, you know, rewards exploration, which can get kind of crazy if you let it. And the use of kind of, you know, using the limited architectural capabilities of the engine to kind of suggest archways and stuff like that. I just like it. It's interesting. It works really well, I think. Uh-oh. Okay. Ugh. I was kind of worried that was a bottomless pit. Doom has a couple of those. Those are kind of no-nos. Now see, I really like that. I really like that secret. Another kind of like switch hidden behind an elevator sort of secret. Let's just get another medikit here. Oh, I already got them all. Okay, whatever. Well, there's that one there, but there we go. Yeah, that just feels so good. It's a great secret. And this area is also very memorable because there's just something about the scratches on the texture and this weird wooden post and this strange ritualistic looking kind of area and the archvile in the cage. It's a very memorable and very nice little set piece, and you know, it can definitely take you by surprise the first time for sure. And I just like how it progresses and how it feels to flow, how the flow feels, I guess. You know, it has a nice sense of movement to it when I go through it. But then we get to this, which is a very tedious, somewhat anticlimactic kind of part of the level, the end of the level. And it kind of reminds me of how at the end of the factory... Okay, that was confusing. It kind of reminds me of how at the end of the factory, there was this very tedious sort of puzzle involving, you know, these cages with these Koko demons, and then having to like hit the switch on in the right little cubbies. And I just find that to be every single time to be like very tedious and kind of just shitty. And I feel the same way about this part. I don't it's a gimmick that's just kind of stupid, and I don't really... I think that maybe it could be used in an inventive way, but here it's just very repetitive and not very satisfying. It's kind of like, I just want to get out of here. Whereas I enjoyed exploring some of the other parts of the level. So I think when there just aren't enough kind of satisfying... Ah, god damn it. I don't like... This elevator is not too great either. What do we have here? Is that a secret? A secret? Is that a secret? Wow! I never knew about that. That's cool. So sometimes you just find new secrets, or I may have just forgotten about it, but that's cool. Yeah, so something just bugs me about this whole ending sequence where you're just kind of triggering you're triggering new pathways to open up in one of these 3 sections, and I think what tends to kind of grind my gears is that there's a lot of tedious memory involved, and I don't find that to be very fun, whereas it's yeah, I just think the sheer number of like specific things to remember in one little part, it's just, I don't care for that too much. Well, at the same time, I do want a challenge, and I like you know, a little bit of puzzle solving, but it shouldn't get overly mechanical, because then that's not fun. It should kind of have a neat flow to it instead of feeling like you're just taking up time. This is kind of a slightly smaller level that is really interesting because its sort of connecting piece is just this massive courtyard, you know, hence the name of the level, and it's another level that really carries the possibility of playing passively and being able to accumulate a really, really large number of enemies. I thought that was something. It's not. Accumulating a really large number of enemies kind of all coming after you, and thankfully, you know, there's no archviles here like there was in the suburbs. And actually, like the suburbs, well, I don't know if this happens here, but it might. But I know that in the suburbs and the PlayStation version, if you did what I was doing earlier and just kind of like play mostly passively, you end up actually crashing the game because there's too many sprites that it has to kind of keep track of at once. And that's a really kind of funny thing, because I remember that happening, and of course, you know, I'm pretty sure I had my passwords written down or whatever, as there was no like memory card save on that game, but I really felt cheated. I felt, God, I need the stupid blue key, that's right. I really felt like I had been cheated because, I don't know, you expect a PC game to sometimes screw up, and yeah, to kind of just have the keys out in the open here, which is interesting, and you just kind of have to find them. I'm trying to remember what that switch does. I think, was that it? I don't remember. So, wow, kind of forgot about all this, but I really need those cells. So yeah, you'll totally crash the game, and I kind of had this funny expectation that, like, well, it's a console game. Those don't crash. They're, or rather, crashing. Look at that. That's really weird. Crashing should be pretty much non-existent or extremely rare, and Doom on the PlayStation is pretty stable, but yeah.
Oh god, the Citadel. So